Welcome back, everybody, to Overdunk. This is episode 80 of your favorite competitive Pokemon Unite podcast. As always, I am your host, Zoinks, but this time I am joined by very, very honored guests. I have two competitors from, that's right, not one, but two world champions in a row. I have Kyriaos and Slash with me. Thank you so much for coming on the show again. Honestly, you've all been frequent guests at this point, but I mean, this episode comes with a few more flowers, I think, in terms of that. So to start the show off, huge congratulations from me and everybody here at the Overdunk show. Amazing, amazing job. Chat already also saying that to you as well. But just in case this is someone's first episode, first experience with competitive Pokemon Unite, somehow they found their way to this podcast, let's just get a couple of intros but for the two of you out there. So Slash, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody listening at home?
Hi, I'm Slashcan. I'm the 2023 and 2022 Pokemon Unite World Champion, along with Kyriaos. And I was also the Brawl Stars NA champion in 2019. A lot of people know me from that as well.
It's true. That is true. Wow. Okay, so, what happened in 2021? Wow, we don't have to talk about it.
No, in 2021, I won the biggest Brawl Stars tournament in North America for 50K.
Okay.
So it's not like I was washed, but I swapped to Unite because I
not losing. That's crazy. Well done. All right, can't wait to see what game Kyriaos swaps to. But Kyriaos, and now we got to hear from you. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kyriaos. I'm the attacker for Luminosity Gaming. I'm the back-to-back world champions, team captain, and yeah.
Cool. I mean, double champions 2 times in a row. Obviously, I think your name's going to precede you a lot of the time. But I mean, that alone is a crazy, crazy fact, right? The fact that you have now won back-to-back world championships, it is almost unheard of in competitive esports. However, you are, I will say, joining a pretty elite club now in terms of esports competitors who have won back-to-back championships in this caliber. But let's start our interview there. Obviously, you have played in 2 grand finals on the world stage now, beaten a ton of different teams from all over the world in both scenarios. I gotta ask, what felt tougher? Was it this Worlds or was it last year's Worlds? Which one felt more competition for LG? Or of course you were Blackhand at the time. What do we think was a little bit stronger, 2022 or 2023?
So me personally, I thought the group stage in 2022 was a lot more sus for us.
Okay, sure.
It was a lot closer, but then the bracket was probably easier.
Okay.
Whereas this year the bracket was probably a little harder, but the group stage was a little easier, still a little sus this time around too.
Yeah, we all remember that one map, but other than that, okay. Fair enough. Kyriaos, do you think that you're kind of in the same vein as Slash? You had a bit of an easier ride through groups this time around, but bracket was tougher?
Yeah, I would say something pretty similar. I think a lot of the teams in the bracket, even though a lot of the teams that probably were favored to like maybe win the entire tournament by a lot of the community didn't really make it. I think a lot of those teams that were still in the top 8 this year are really, really tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, the group stage, I think we pretty much had it in the bag from the start. It was just the very unfortunate, very, very first game. And there could be more details on that on a more specific level, but you know,
yeah.
I think from even from that game, we could
we'll dive into it a little bit in the interview a bit later. But I think there is a great spot. If anybody is listening, these two gentlemen have some pretty fantastic YouTube channels, but Slash using Kyriaos' face as clickbait on the video where you were mauling over that game where you lost in group stage, I personally thought was hysterical. So shout out Slash for making some good content out of a moment in a match like that. So go check out that video, everybody, for sure. But okay, we'll get to Worlds in a little bit. I was just kind of curious to get that off the hop, but let's talk about the season as a whole. So Narratives wise, LG was a really interesting team this year round. Obviously, you had one roster swap like from the World Championship team into this one for the majority of the season. You had Rin join the squad. And the start of your run obviously was a little tough in that first monthly final. Then you picked up the pace, but like Champions kind of eluded you until near the end of the year. Both of you have made posts, I think, already about how it was a really tough, tumultuous year. And so I don't want to dig too much into that or like, you know, what made it tough and stuff like that, because obviously both of you have already discussed that in the past. But I'm actually more curious, why did you keep playing? Like, both of you talked about why it was so tough, why it was such a challenge, but you are now both world champions, so obviously you stuck it out. So I'm really curious, even on a personal level or on a whole team level, where'd the steadfastness from LG come? Kyriaos, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. Were you talking more like in a team level or just like myself?
Yeah, you can answer either. Whatever you think was more like prominent in your mind of what made you keep playing throughout the year.
I guess I do both. So like for the team, I guess in general, people still really wanted to like have the goal from the very beginning of the year and didn't really want to give up on that. I think just like, you know, pretty much the entire squad really, really wanted to win again.
Cool.
And be able to like show that we could still be the best. Even though a lot of guys out there in the community maybe thought otherwise and that we couldn't do it again. For me personally, I guess if I had to be completely honest, I probably was one of the people on the team that maybe doubted a little more than the others actually. I might have been one of the people that kind of struggled a bit more after some losses and also like maybe didn't have the best performances in some of those months as well. For the ones that we lost, and you know that's been brought up like plenty of times as well. It's like, you know, for me as a player, a lot of inconsistency in like different months, but I guess for me, I really want to like show that even though people might say like it might be kind of a joke, people say like, you know, Overlord +4 randoms when they refer to our team. I really wanted to show that like there's a reason that we're on this team. It's not just because like we got lucky from the start and we just like happened to be on the team for fun or anything like that, and anybody could just win with Overlord on their team or something like that. It's because there's something valuable that each person brings to the table, and I wanted to show exactly what it was. And for me, I think it was consistency and really good control and pace, helping out the team with their macro and stuff like that. So I just really wanted to show that and keep going.
I'd say you did a pretty good job of showing it. Obviously, you got a pretty giant Pikachu trophy inside your home now, a second one to boot. So I think fantastic work in that regard. But Slash, I'm curious for you too. Obviously, like you made a pretty long tweet longer almost immediately after Worlds. I think the day after, sort of talking about the season. But how about for you? What was the inspiration to keep playing all season long, keep competing, and then obviously keep competing to the level of performance you did at Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, I never lost motivation. I've been all in esports since I entered Pokemon Unite.
Yeah.
I did used to be kind of not sure if this is what I wanted to do back in the Brawl Stars days, which is why I switched to Pokemon Unite, you know, a second chance to like really go all in from the start. And I think I said before we even won Worlds last year that my goal is to win the world championship as many times in a row as I can. So
okay, good.
I definitely
good start
wasn't
so far.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't just, and like what I thought was feasible after winning Worlds, I think I said this in one of the interviews, was winning 3 times in a row.
Okay.
So that's my main goal. Obviously I want to win more than that, but that's what I think is feasible.
Sweet.
Any more than that is probably near impossible. But obviously I'm gonna try my best. And yeah.
Okay.
I've just always been really motivated playing the whole year.
That's awesome. Okay, I mean, your inspiration, obviously, not leave it, and it sounds like it's still there, and you're ready to be competing and ongoing, which is so fantastic to hear. So yeah, this season overall, like we said, you had that kind of one poor performance in the month, but you came away with 2 monthly final titles. To your credit, I think we the math we had, you had an average placement of 3rd across the entire season, so a pretty fantastic average. Regionals, you did unfortunately become second place, but in a really extremely close tournament overall. Obviously, you were there on winner's side, so a close matchup, but going into Worlds this time around, I think there was definitely a different tone around LG. Like, for example, one thing that I think, well, when you were playing under Blackhand's name back in the day in that first year, you were in London. Gosh, what was it? Like 2 weeks ahead of the tournament, right? Like y'all were boot camping hard in person, like at the event, like a much longer in advance. This year was not quite the same, so you didn't invest as much time, in Japan beforehand. I know you all had a pretty fun vacation after for quite some time, so it's fantastic. But so obviously a little bit of a different perspective headed into Worlds number 2. So I'm curious what kind of well, maybe I'm off base. How about this? For your first World Championships, what do you think was kind of the secret sauce in that one? Did you guys just have a good read on the meta? Do you think that all that boot camping time really paid off? And then in this year, what was kind of the different lightning in a bottle that LG caught for this tournament? I guess I'm asking you to just say all your secrets, but I'm curious. I'm curious, with just such a little prep time there in Japan for your Worlds 2, I mean, how did you prepare? Like, how did you get ready? Was there a lot of just like practicing back in NA before leaving to the States? Was there a lot of VOD review? What was kind of the preparation looking like for LG? Because I know you had both Ven and Junkie's help before this tournament, so I was just curious.
Yeah. So we were lucky that Baby Mazo's team and Kira, what was their name in the tournament? Like Owen.
Hoenn, yeah.
Yeah, they also left really late, so we were able to scrim them like daily before we left to Japan. Once we reached Japan, we scrimmed like 4 times a day.
Yeah.
Obviously we really wanted to get the boot camp, but it was really tough because LG scheduled our flights because we didn't get the prize money. So we probably would have had a pretty long boot camp if we got first in regionals, but
makes sense.
I'd say the first year of Worlds, scrimming, Nouns kind of like almost exclusively scrimmed us. And I'd say it was literally like, it made the team like 5 times better in that boot camp. We also had like Toon like helping coach us as well as our sub. So I'd say our team like really, really evolved in that boot camp, and that's when we became the best in the world.
Yeah.
Because I'd say like our team wasn't really that before the boot camp. But that really helped us to evolve. This year, we're more like, we knew how to practice well. It was like the biggest lesson we were learning throughout the year on how to get good practice, no matter like the team we're facing, etc. Like obviously I posted about a lot of our struggles. So I feel like we were the best prepared team when it came to how we used our practice. Cool. And
that's really important. I mean, that's a huge skill that so many teams I don't think have at this time. It's definitely putting LG apart. But we did mention your sponsor now a couple of times when discussing this. So Kyriaos, obviously you played for Blackhand in year 1, and now this year you played for LG. LG obviously is a very well-known name in the esports world. They're also one of the only teams that seems to be really investing in esports now when it's kind of a seller's market, kind of across all esports. However, Pokemon Unite, obviously a little bit cheaper of an investment, so they're kind of doubling down. It's been pretty fantastic. They made that really cool sort of mini documentary that's up on YouTube. If anybody hasn't seen it, you should check that out too. But how has it been to like play for a team like LG? Like, obviously they've tried to give you some resources, they're paying for your flights and stuff, but like, what's it like to be a part of an organization like that?
I think overall it's definitely a really good experience. I think just seeing a lot of support on their social media and things like that, and seeing them post about it, and then also getting to know some of like their staff a little bit more personally, whenever they come to help out with things and ask us like how it's going and what we need and things like that, it definitely really, really helps. And I could definitely feel how much like they actually invest into their players and actually care about it. Especially when I was like trying to book my flight to Japan, they were really, really generous with how I want to actually fly. So I definitely felt that like they really tried to help out their players on a personal level.
That's awesome.
And didn't really like definitely showed a lot of respect to all of us. So I really appreciate that from LG. Means a lot. Yeah, overall, I mean, it's just great. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to play any of their army of Smash Brothers players? Do you get private coaching now because because you got that LG name? Are you able to cash in on that one yet? What's going on?
Yeah, we joke about that a lot actually. I kind of
It's like I keep
I,
asking, and
yeah,
unfortunately,
maybe I should. I haven't really like got around to ask them because I've always just been like,
absolutely you
focusing
should.
on Unite.
Uh-huh.
I also saw that they were trying to sign a Pokemon Unite creator, just like a
Mm-hmm.
content creator, kind of like maybe like Chris Heroes kind of does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It'd be really, really interesting to see one of our friends, maybe who is a pretty big streamer, could
Yeah.
maybe take that spot. So I think that would be really cool. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it would be cool. Definitely, like the next step would be getting more connected with the Unite community or even the esports community as a whole through LG, which definitely could be very possible.
Mm.
But that's like, yeah, kind of like maybe a month or two down the line of the off season is when we try to like make some of those more connections, I guess.
I'll get you to play those Smash players. Don't worry. I
You
want
play
that
Lego.
so bad. I want to see it.
Yeah.
We need to play Smash. Well, maybe we'll see. It wouldn't be worth it. Slash, I'm curious about you though. Obviously, you have played multiple esports titles now. You've been like you said, you were all in on esports at this point in time. LG entering the Unite sphere, I think, is really exciting for the community as a whole. But do you think with LG joining that in season 3 and beyond, do you think that LG joining, and also congrats to you all for winning a world championship, do you think there's a little more credibility on the table now in terms of more sponsors coming into the game? I know prize pools aren't immaculate. However, there is news about them potentially increasing. We don't have exact numbers, but we have some esport heads tweeting about that. And obviously, viewership blew up compared to last year in terms of Twitch and YouTube viewership on season 2. So metrics are going up. Do you think that more organizations will be interested in competitive Unite Slash?
Yeah. I was actually surprised that there weren't more tier 1 organizations joining for Worlds this year. However, I like the esports kind of economy bubble did kind of pop at the beginning of this year, so it's not that surprising. I actually am very glad with the like kind of the storyline this year, and I thought it was like the best possible outcome for Pokemon Unite going forward. Like as much as it sucks losing to TTV and regionals, that is going to boost viewership a lot because TTV is a very popular team.
Sure.
You kind of in the history of esports, you've seen it countless times where kind of teams like, for example, in like Val, like when a Japan team did really well in Val esports, it kind of started Valorant started blowing up in Japan.
True. That's a
when
really
China
good point.
did really well, when China did really well in League of Legends esports, like China blew up in League. So the fact that Japan did fairly well in Unite, getting third, that is really good for viewership because Japan is the biggest viewership base for Unite right now.
Yeah.
The fact that a tier 1 org won Worlds, very, very good as well. So honestly, the storyline would have been a little better if Japan got second or first, but
Sure.
I think it still played out really well, considering Baby Mazo's team making it out of groups too, making it to like top 5 is really, really good as well. And Worlds performed really well numbers wise. So I would be shocked if more tier 1 orgs didn't enter the scene next year.
I don't know if you all got to see the like Japanese live stream numbers, but like especially when we were in like top 4 sector when like Japan teams were playing each other, we had like 30, like 40,000 plus viewers actively on like the Japanese YouTube as well. Like it was sick. Like they were numbers were huge. Yeah. It was so fun. Like the B stage was always crowded with Japanese fans as well. When like they would just move back and forth to whatever stage Team Japan was playing on. It was really fun. It was so fun to be a part of that, and luckily, selfishly, like for me, I got to talk to the Japanese casters quite a bit more this tournament than I did in London, and it was so fun to just like discuss Unite and like discuss what teams were big and stuff, and like who was really strong, and it was really cool to go in depth with that. But let's talk about what teams were good and like who was hot, who was not on the day at Worlds, because I did my due diligence as a caster. I was in so many players' DMs. I lived on Unite API for 2 weeks before Worlds. I was doing as much as I could to get scrim data. Kyriaos, I want to ask you, were there what regions surprised you with how good they were, especially before Worlds? Like when you were able to just get a perspective, what teams were like really surprising? Obviously, we know the ones that were like surprisingly had a bad performance. Looking at EU, obviously, but like there's other regions that I think were big shocks of how powerful they were. So what was like that for you?
Um, I don't know if they're like particularly shocks. I think
Sure.
as kind of usual, when we didn't really have experience or like it's not as easy to watch like the Asia League and like
Mm-hmm.
how regions like APAC East, Korea, and Japan like kind of play.
Yeah.
They kind of showed, different play styles. I guess one thing to like kind of go into like more details, like
Yeah.
they really like to play like the melees.
Oh
They're really
yeah.
practical practice on the melees, like Zacian,
Mm-hmm.
Water Bear. I think that was probably maybe the one probably the most surprising and most likely Sash would agree with me is that like Water Bear was basically not seen very much in the EU and NA meta. But then when we came to like Japan and like APAC, Water Bear was pretty much played almost every single game by every single team.
Mm-hmm.
And every single game that was played, it just looked like dominant. So we
Mm-hmm.
saw how powerful it could really be, along with like the melee like Zacian, things like that. So that's probably the most surprising thing when you see like other regions meta. But other than that, like I think they played really aggressive and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they like had like pretty good mechanics, but I think a lot of the times we had a lot of those things figured out when it came to like the bigger picture, the macro,
Yeah.
and how to like respond to a lot of these pushes. I think it's what the number one thing we noticed, especially like watching like Oisumi macro when we're
Mm-hmm.
preparing for them, is like they just love to just like 5-man run at pads
Oh, they
whenever they
love
think they
it.
have like even a slight advantage. So
Uh-huh.
we're just going to respond to that really well, and we're also going to prioritize Hoopa so we can defend these pads really easily. And that's
Mm-hmm.
like I think a big reason why we got advantage in those games. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any region that was like, whoa, like they're so strong. We didn't expect it.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe it's just because, we practice a lot and we watch and we study a lot. But
Sure.
I don't know. I think everything kind of, I guess, is under control, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah,
no doubts
for
for me. I mean, 3-0 grand finals. Like you don't gotta convince me. How about you, Slash?
so for me, if you watched my tier list video at the end with Spraggles, I also did a team predictions.
Oh,
And
okay.
so actually there were not many surprises. I predicted Baby Mazo's team would make it out of the group.
Sick.
I predicted most of the teams except for ASU. I guess I'd say like Korea surprised me making out of their groups, but
Yeah.
looking back at the games, I think it was more ASU choking. No flame
Sure.
to Korea. Um, I'd say
Hey,
Japan
they
did
won more than
surprise me
one
a
game in
little.
top eight too. Okay, like they went out 5th, 6th, so they obviously had
Yeah,
some. They had definitely had some talent there for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Korea were very hard workers, so they were constantly asking for scrims, like 5 scrims a day in Japan. So it
Yeah.
definitely really paid off. Um, I think for me, what was surprising about the teams was it's the second year at Worlds now where like I kind of do like pretty much all of the analyst work for my team when it comes to Worlds,
Okay.
and it still felt like I was the only player that was willing to do that for Worlds, and it really showed in the draft prep because I
Mm-hmm.
think any of the teams could have picked apart Omo Abyssinian's like draft gaps because
Yeah.
their Pokemon pools were really lacking. However, we were the only team that even recognized that these draft gaps existed, just because teams didn't care enough to watch regionals, look at scrim data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just feel like at the level Unite is now, there's not really any third party analysts or coaches yet that are good enough to be able to do that. So a player really just has to sit down and do that themselves.
Yeah.
And it's shocked me that it's the second year in a row now that I'm like probably the only person at Worlds who has done that.
Yeah. Well, again, another credit to the LG squad for making that happen and making it work. So, okay, obviously, drafting was a huge part of the strength for you. I mean, I think I asked you on stage, and you just said it was Lapras, so that was good to hear. How powerful that Pokemon pick was. But let's get into the nitty gritty here a little bit. In day one, you had to enter into groups. You played SAUL first. You dropped the first game. We talked a little bit about that. Maybe some interesting draft choices from all y'all. But however, you did have some comebacks. All Might on SAUL also have a little bit of a pop-off game. I don't want to take that credit away from them. But I'm curious. SAUL was one of the only teams that you dropped a map to. I'm just curious in your opinion. In a world where SAUL beats you there and makes it out of the groups and you don't go to groups, how far do you think that Indian team goes in top 8? Do you think they just go out 7/8, or do you think that they would have a chance to go pretty far in that top bracket?
I'd say 5th to 6th.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think they'll beat. Yeah, I don't think they'll be like the top 4 is what MJK, Oyasumi, Omo,
and you.
And those. Yeah. I don't think they're beating any of those teams, but
yeah,
maybe like 5th to 6th. Yeah, who are the 7th and 8th? Peru and who's the other one?
Peru and Orangutan.
Oh, yeah, Orangutan. Yeah, they might have a chance against like Peru or OG, but yeah, I think 5th to 6th is fair. I don't think they played bad. I think they played better than what we expected, actually.
Yeah.
And like when we were watching Seoul versus TTS before us, we were like, oh, I think we should actually like look at Seoul more carefully.
Yeah,
and, like,
we gotta
be a little bit more cautious when we play them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so here's the one thing that needs to change about Worlds going forward is we can't put poor Shelvin and Gek against you guys in groups again. It just can't happen. Those guys are gonna have an aneurysm.
It's funny because Gek is like Slash's like original homie, right? And then they play against each other in Worlds twice, and Slash
not
beats him
just
twice.
My homie, he was
like
my
coach.
mentor.
Yeah,
he was my mentor. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
he's like
up,
he's
bro.
your grandfather, and you took him out twice. That's crazy. So wild. But hey, shout out. But okay, you made it through groups. You go into top 8. Walk me through your bracket. So who was your first round matchup? Was it Orangutan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Great. That match seemed like it. I mean, at this point, we were headed into day 2 LG.
Stomp, I think.
Yeah, we got a full picture of day 2 LG. That was unreal. But yeah, sorry, Slash, talk to me about what happened in that game.
Yeah, it was basically just a pure and utter draft gap.
Okay.
We kind of knew we had Orangutain's number, even going into the game, like their macro and stuff. We knew like if we drafted our Venusaur comp, there was nothing they would be able to do. Like they did not play against Venusaur enough. They did not have anything prepared.
Yeah.
And it really showed. I think they were probably a really good matchup for us because I'm friends with Ice. I know how he thinks and like his team. So
yeah, fair enough. Just a really good matchup. So then your second round, did you have... It was Japan on the other side of the bracket. So who was your bracket?
I think it was Omo.
Yeah, Omo.
Yeah, this was your first
Omo?
showing against Omo.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which definitely looks a little more competitive than the grand finals, in my opinion.
That one was really Mickey Mouse. Like,
okay,
we probably should not have won.
That's the one
games.
where Kyriaos hit the B button and saved the match. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
no, that was grand. That was grand. The semifinals. Yeah, I'm actually. I was gonna do like stream review of like the matches, so that was the one I was gonna do next. I have a video on like Orangutan coming up, but I actually haven't watched it like back yet. But
no, you did secure Array with Inteleon in that match.
Yeah, that was grand. Yeah. Oh, I don't think.
Oh, maybe it was maybe I think of the one against SAUL. I think you had a game.
But I think the first game. I think I can't remember. So like the first game, we kind of just like. We kind of just drafted like very standard stuff like Inteleon first pick and like general stuff like the Umbreon or something like that, like really bread and butter.
Yep. Because
we know they didn't play Water or Shifu, so we didn't really care about that too much. We didn't ban it, and then they pick Zoroark, and I remember this really specifically where it's like Slash apparently had a note on Shua. Where he's like, she was a very good mechanical player, and then he's also like probably his most played is Zoroark, and then we left Zoroark open for fun. Don't know why we did that. We just like left Zoroark open. He like 2-3 picked Zoroark, and then he farmed us.
Yeah, I remember like Rin was like, you don't need to look at your notes. It's fine. Like we'll just take Water Bear into Zoroark. Like who cares how good he is at Zoroark? And we got farmed, and I was like, Yeah, that's why we
points
looked
in
at
his
the
notes.
analyst
That's so funny. Yeah, Zorak was crazy. He was definitely one of the like I think on paper like best mechanical players in that role at Worlds, like, or at the very least has like made a name for themselves in a really big way at Worlds. I think there's a few Omo players, but Shua definitely that. Lucapo on MJK. I'm just a huge Lucapo fanboy now. Their Water Bear and Scyther play was pretty sweet. We didn't get to see as much of the Scyther, but it was still pretty cool. But okay, awesome. So you go into Omo, then winners finals, I believe.
Yeah, wait, I wanted to say one more thing about Omo.
Yeah.
So, for me, there's a lot of similarities between this Worlds and last Worlds.
Okay.
So last Worlds, like we 3-0'd Grand Finals too. We almost choked in the group stages before that. So it was very similar. And I'd say this was similar too against Omo because it was a very like sus games. We probably shouldn't have won the games that we did.
Okay.
But we were kind of just in the zone, right? So we still won.
Yeah.
And it was the same against Renaissance last year at Worlds, I believe.
That's right.
Where we should not have won. Kyriaos got like a 1v5 Zapdos steal. Absolutely clutching the game. Yeah,
the game that he got 0 kills in. 0 kills on Machamp, but he got Zap. That was my favorite.
He was so confident in your trivia. He was like, I got 1 kill at least.
Yes. Oh, also, for both of you to know and everybody else in chat, unfortunately, I didn't get Jeopardy ready in time for tonight, but in the future, we will be getting LG back for a Jeopardy night again. Because that was so much fun. We definitely got to do that again, and we have some fun content planned in the future. But yes, all right, sorry, Slash, to jump in there. Continue, though.
Oh, no, that was all I was going to say.
Okay,
basically.
Well, no problem. Let's talk about your winners finals matchup. This one was against Oyasumi, right? Yeah. Okay. It wasn't MJK, right? It was Oyasumi?
Oyasumi, yeah.
Yeah, it was Oyasumi. We never faced MJK.
Okay. So you scrimmed Oyasumi macro quite a bit, right? Leading into Worlds?
No. They actually dono walled us.
No.
I messaged all of them and none of them responded. I low-key think they were mad about my tier list. Because Ton also unfollowed me, so I did rate them kind of low on the tier list.
Dang.
Starting beef, bro.
Yeah, well, he's playing mind games. He was in there already. Okay, great. You take down OSC macro. You take down OMO 3-0 fashion as well. Any notes that we want to give on any of these matches specific? Any behind-the-scenes content that we can talk about these two? Or were they just kind of stomps all the way through?
I don't think they're like stomps. I think, well, Oyasumi, I think we are doing pretty well. I think both games we pretty much just like had them. We didn't really like do anything special. We just like, I think their Zora tried to like back cap or something, and then Ren killed her. I remember that specifically because like Ren was popping off.
Gotcha.
Where there's Zoro, I think it's PYI, right? So he tried to back cap, and then Ren caught him and then killed him, and then they just like it actually kind of looked similar to us, where it seemed like PYI was trying to like carry on like Zoroark, and then he tried to back cap. Their entire team tried to follow him, and then Blissey tried to unite him, but then Blissey united too late. United Zoinks on Espeon, and then Zoinks instantly died because Slash Umbreon ulted him, and then all three of them died, and they lost the raid the first game. And the first game was like it's like back and forth, but then they like made a huge mistake, and then they died there. So that's kind of similar. It's something similar. I thought like, yo, that's kind of maybe what we do before things like that. And then the second game we stomped them. I think Omo, like their team is like really good. Where their mechanical players are always like really, really dominant. Like J Rapson on their Hoopa is like really, really scary and just a menace invading your jungle.
Who was their tree player?
Tempest. Yeah, Tempest was also really, really good. He caught me like several times. Yeah, I like he plays around. I think what's really special about him is that he plays around vision really well. You never see where Tempest is in any of the bushes.
Interesting.
And then just like appears behind you and he catches you with a tree and things like that. It's like he is very good at that. But I think like all the games against Omo could have gone one way or the other, but their players are just really good. Honestly, if they had deeper player pools, like Mon pools, and like they like were more flexible, I think the matches could have been even closer. But we managed to like outdraft them, even though the games were still close. Like our draft kind of difference really helped us out.
A cool thing.
Yeah,
This is a random Pokemon touch. I'll let you get in here, Slash, just a sec. But while watching the grand finals, you all were doing your thing. It was pretty clear LG was going to win it. But I was watching when I was like getting ready for interview stuff. I was hanging out in the crowd. I noticed some other casters from other games watching, and I ran into one of the TCG casters. His name is Wancho, and he like is part-time Philippines, part-time North America, and of course most of Omo is Philippines. And we were talking, and he's like, man, apparently no one from the Philippines has ever won a Pokemon World Championship title. In TCG, in VGC, and obviously Go and Unite have just been around for the last couple of years, but no one from the Philippines has ever won, and he was like, we were so freaking close, like grand finals. And so it was really fun to see the crowd. Like, obviously there was a whole lot of LG fans in there, but there was a decent amount of Omo fans as well, like losing their mind. I know, like Danilee, she was like a caster for APAC, was in the crowd as well. She was cheering them on. I think her voice was absolutely obliterated, so there was definitely some cool support on either side. You guys could have made it look a little closer, but it's fine. It's fine. Slash, how about that grand finals for you? Any insider intel on that matchup?
Yeah, so I honestly think that it was just very hard draft gaps
Yeah.
in the grand finals.
Mhm.
Like, we figure out their number, and that's like a large part of what mid-league games not very close, except for the second game, which was very, very close. And I'd say a lot of people say the first game was close, but in my opinion, I think Kyrios probably agrees that it wasn't that close. Like, yeah, I think a couple of people made some mistakes, so it was only me and Kyrios alive.
Yeah.
But in that state of the game, Inteleon Auto, when he's like level 14, does like 2.4k.
Yeah.
So it's just an insane secure. And I stunned all three of them, and there's nothing they can do but rip as fast as possible in that game state. So in my opinion, it was not even close, really. We had like 80-20 odds on that Rayquaza.
Right.
But the second game was definitely very, very 50-50.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, Inteleon secure, kind of absurd. It is especially, you're right, at level 14, it's ridiculous. But cool. Well, thank you so much for going in depth with me here on your tournament.
I did want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to mention one more thing. I think Oyasumi would have put up a really good fight.
Yeah.
If they had, actually.
Yeah,
so
it definitely would have been a different story for Oyasumi headed in. I think you probably still win that game, and they probably still end up third, in my personal opinion. But that's,
really,
that's up in the air.
I think
how Omo was playing up until they entered against you guys, I don't know. I personally think they would have been able to take it, but in my opinion, because Oyasumi still got third. But yeah, we can talk about that. But cool. Well, I just want to ask a couple more questions for you guys before I let you get out of here. Obviously you went in depth in the tournament run, but you've now been through this season process in World Championships a couple times in a row. Obviously we all want there to be a season 3. We all know there's probably going to be a season 3 on the horizon. Is there any kind of changes you would like to see towards the competitive structure moving forward? It could be literally anything, but obviously we kind of all know groups should definitely look different than they did this year. Yeah, but yeah, anything else other than that you two wanted to kind of bring up in a platform like this? Slash, how about you?
So I want to see a lot more off-season support.
Yeah.
First and foremost. I'd like to see the prize pool increase.
Okay.
And I'd like to see better distribution of the prizes too. I think the way
like
it's distributed now, like no, just even like the world's prize pool. Like, I know a lot of players that actually weren't as motivated because they look at first place, they're like, oh, it's only 100k for winning first. I told Johnny this actually when we had a meeting with them. I was like, players would be more motivated if you just put more of the prize money into like the top like 3 versus like spreading it throughout the tournament.
Interesting.
Like,
yeah.
But when you get 16th, you're gonna be depressed whether you're receiving like $500 less or not. Like, let's be real. So, that's personally what I would like to see. I'd like to see them try to make it easier to practice with like adding draft or something, or at least bans to ranked as well on ladder.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a really big talking point. Making it a similar experience to tournament play would be really, really cool. Fair enough. How about you, Kyrios? Any thoughts that you would like to see?
Yeah, I think the number one thing, I think like off season is cool. All those kind of like tournaments maybe in the winter, maybe like supporting more land tournaments, things like that could help. I think the number one thing they really have to change though is just like how do you split the balance between casual and competitive? And Slash kind of touched upon this with what he said right now, but also like in the kind of talk with Johnny that like the ban thing is one part of being able to like balance competitive
Mm-hmm.
and like actually incorporate some elements into competitive from competitive into ranked.
Yeah.
But I think it's more than that. I think there should just be like straight up a whole different ladder. And then in this ladder and like how they approach ladder is where they can add things like full on draft, like maybe even like queuing up and finding some other like professional players who are also solo queuing on that ladder, and then
Mhm.
adding like specific rewards for ladder that people will actually be motivated to look at to climb and actually like really want to get this kind of things. Maybe something physical like League of Legends sends out like things for
Sure.
hitting challenger, things like that.
At least
Like
they
that
used
kind
to.
of
Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
cool.
yeah, even that kind of like reward, which definitely I think could be possible,
Mm-hmm.
would just like motivate players much more than a 1600 sticker.
Sure.
It just I mean some people want it. I think it's like it's okay, but it's like we just have to go a lot further for that for people to really like be motivated, and also really want to play more ranked.
Yeah.
And then it's just like yeah, when you like make that separate ladder, you also really have to consider even if you can't bounce the game as often for like the casual players, you really got to start updating and like balancing this game more often because
Mm-hmm.
there are just too many long periods where it's just the same thing with 1 or 2 months being way better than all the other ones, and then you
Right.
just like don't practice or have fun.
Yeah.
All
It's
those mons
yeah.
have bugs, and then those bugs aren't allowed
Uh-huh.
competitive, and then those mons not being allowed competitive are played every single game that you play in casual,
Right.
and then just like don't really even get to experience the same game as you would in tournaments. So that's just been a huge problem.
Yeah, I think you're. I mean, curious. Obviously, most of your points are pointed towards the game itself and how that could
Yeah,
be changed to help the competitive structure. And Slash, you were talking a little bit more about how the tournament feels, but I think those are all really, really good points. I think we all want to see some changes in those areas to definitely improve the game.
Oh,
I'd love that.
one
Yeah, what's
one
up,
more
Slash?
thing I want to
Mm-hmm.
see is allowing more infrastructure, like coaches being able to help out in between games, like even on
Yeah,
stage. That would
for
help a lot.
in-person events, right? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
Because online events aren't they technically allowed to if they want to?
Oh yes.
Okay, so right, but having code and stuff, yeah, that'd be really cool. I I don't know. I the only reason I'm just kind of held back on it is slash you and I are both kind of like this. We're old esports heads. Like, curious, I know you followed League for a long time too, and you've competed and stuff. But like, I followed esports for a long time, and the amount of good coaches compared to the amount of people who just call themselves coaches ends up being a really scary thing in a lot of new esports. And so I don't know. I just like let's take the coaching thing slow, you know? But I think having some of the people that I mean have proved themselves enough to be on a big team and the team trusts them, maybe you're right. Maybe they should be on stage. That'd be really cool. Well, awesome. I think that's all really good stuff. Thank you so much to the two of you for taking the time out of your evenings to come and talk about your season, your tournament run. It's always fantastic, and here
Yeah,
in
I
Unite
did want to
Mics, we love
say
learning. Yeah, what's going on?
one small thing about our season run.
Yeah.
Like throughout the year. So
Mm-hmm.
in my experience with esports, since I've been in esports for so long and like researching, it is extremely hard to stay at the top.
Oh
So
yeah.
sure, we won worlds back to back, but the hardest thing to do by far is to consistently be the best team every
Mm-hmm.
single day. It is virtually impossible. There are teams who've done this for like maybe 3 months in a row maximum, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it is so incredibly hard. to stay at the top. It is so much easier to win when you are considered the underdogs. Teams are going to be underestimating you, not doing as much prep as they should, versus every team wanting to, like, every
Aiming
team
at you.
just pouring all of their effort into just beating you every single time. You have so much pressure of, like, not losing, keeping up the win streak. It has always been, it has always escaped me personally, where, like, I've had a lot of achievements, but I've never been able to become that good. And that is my goal, obviously, but that is, like, a big reason why we weren't able to. We were still, like, pretty consistent, 1-2 monthly finals, but obviously we did have some bad months as well. And I think that is one of the hardest things to do, especially in games where the meta is ever changing.
Yeah. All right. Well, season 3 Slash doesn't drop a tournament. Tournament titles the whole way through. Let's go.
Just win every tournament, bro. You suck if you don't.
Yeah,
Noobs.
Forehead. Easy wins. You can do it at Worlds. You can do it in monthlies. Oh, that certainly was the narrative that everyone wanted to push. But anyways, I think that will bring us to the end of our episode. Everybody, thank you so much for checking this out. Of course, will be uploaded to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and youtube.com/UniteMics. But make sure you check out these 2 channels. I'll give them a chance right now to plug it. So Slash, where can people find you on the internet, and where can they find the cool content you make?
Yeah, so I've been grinding YouTube the most right now, just /Can on YouTube. I've been posting every single day. I've been really proud of myself for keeping up with that.
Good.
Hopefully I continue with it.
Yeah, I guarantee. As long as everybody listening to this show goes and subscribes, then I know Slash will keep up with it. It's a threat. Kyriaos, how about you? Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, my Twitter is just Kyriaos_Unite. And everything else, I'm pretty sure is just Kyriaos. YouTube, pretty much pretty much everything's just Kyriaos, and then only thing that isn't Kyriaos is my Twitter, Kyriaos_Unite.
Cool. Okay, well, make sure to follow the 2 champions, but obviously the whole roster of 5s out there. I'm sure everyone is already following and already checking out all their content and checking out what LG is doing. Thank you so much, everybody. Next week on Overdunk, it's going to be kind of a special episode. It's not just going to be Unite. We're going to be doing a roundtable competitive Pokemon Unite discussion. I'm going to be getting a caster from every other title. So Speediest Chief from Pokemon Go is going to come on. Chip Ritchie from TCG is going to come on. And Necro from VGC is going to come on. And we're going to be doing kind of a roundtable discussion about all things competitive Pokemon. We did it last year. We're doing it again. It's been a lot of fun. So we'll see you all out there next time. But until next time, everybody, have a really good rest of your week. Goodbye.